What happens when the contract you signed last year suddenly costs you 25% more overnight? That's exactly what Trump's tariffs are doing to Florida businesses right now. And if you think your old agreement protects you, think again. Let's talk about how these tariffs are shaking up commercial contracts and what you can do before it's too late. Now, when we talk about Trump's tariffs, whether it's on steel, aluminum, Chinese components, or other imported goods, we're not just talking about trade policy, we're talking about the unexpected pressure they're putting on contracts that were signed long before anyone saw these price hikes coming. And the big question is, what happens when the deal you signed no longer makes economic sense because of these new costs? I'm Santiago Cueto, a board-certified international attorney, and I'm going to break it all down for you. So let's dive in. First, you have to understand that most contracts, especially commercial ones, are based on fixed expectations. You agree to a price, a timeline, a product, a service, and everyone assumes those conditions will more or less stay the same. But tariffs? Tariffs blow that right out of the water. They change the cost structure overnight. That $100,000 shipment from China suddenly costs $120,000 or more. That eats directly into your margins, sometimes wipes it out altogether. So what's a Florida business to do? The first place to look for is your force majeure clause. Now, traditionally, force majeure covers things like material disasters, wars, or pandemics, but some contracts are written broadly enough to include government action, regulatory changes, or acts of state. If your contract includes that kind of language, you may have a legal argument to pause or renegotiate performance because of the tariffs. But it's not a slam dunk. Courts tend to interpret these clauses narrowly, and economic hardship alone, like a higher cost due to tariffs, is usually not enough unless the clause explicitly includes it. Next, let's talk about change in law provisions. These are the sleeper clauses. If your contract says that either party can renegotiate if government regulations change the economic viability of the deal, then ding ding ding, you might be entitled to restructure pricing, responsibilities, or even cancel the agreement altogether. But not every contract has it. But if yours does, this is where your leverage lives. But what if your contract doesn't have either of those clauses? Well, now we're in the land of negotiation and commercial reasonableness. And here's the key. Florida courts and U.S. commercial law, specifically under the Uniform Commercial Code, sometimes allows a defense called impracticability. If fulfilling the contract has become commercially unreasonable due to circumstances no one could have predicted, like a sudden 25% tariff on raw materials, you might be able to argue for modification or termination. But again, the bar is high. You'll need proof that the tariff fundamentally changed the nature of the deal. Now here's the strategic play. Even if you don't have strong legal footing to cancel or modify the deal, you still have leverage because your counterparty is probably feeling the same pressure. If you're the buyer, your supplier may want to renegotiate to avoid losing you altogether. Now if you're the seller, your customer might prefer an adjusted price over a full-on breach. So pick up the phone, revisit the contract, and use this moment to realign expectations. A proactive conversation can go a lot further than a lawsuit. And here's one more tip. Learn from it. Moving forward, you must write contracts that anticipate this kind of economic volatility. Build in tariff adjustment clauses. Reference specific trade policy changes. Allow for automatic renegotiation if costs swing by more than 10 or 15%. Smart contracts are your shield against the next surprise from Washington or Beijing. So how do tariffs impact existing contracts? They don't just increase costs, they test the strength, flexibility, and foresight of your agreements. And for Florida businesses navigating international trade, supply chains, and vendor relationships, this is no longer theoretical. It's real, it's happening, and it requires a clear strategy, legally, financially, and operationally. In today's world, the companies that win aren't just the ones with the best prices or products. They're the ones with the best contracts and the best game plan for when the roles suddenly change.